everyone! Today I'm going to be talking about Bookish Buzzwords. The original lovely booktuber who did this was Misty from the channel Book Rat Misty. I will link her channel down below. I feel like I talk about her a lot. She was one of the first booktubers I ever started watching a few years ago. Anyway, she made this video about Bookish Buzzwords a while back, which is where you tell everyone what words you see that make you really want to read that book. Meaning, if you see a word in the title of a book, if you see a word in the description of a book, or if you hear someone describing a book a certain way, it makes you want to read it immediately. And I'm going to share mine with you today. I'm not going to tag anyone in this because it's not a tag, so just do it if you want to do it. So we're not really supposed to say genres for this, it's supposed to be more specific, but I am going to start out by saying magical realism, because if anyone ever describes a book as being magical realism, I will want to read that book. I love magical realism. I've loved most magical realism books I have read, so that's definitely one for me. The second one, if you have been on my channel any length of time at all, any length, you probably know this one, but it's fairy tale. Fairy tale for sure. So obviously if something is being described as a fairy tale retelling, but even if it's not, so it doesn't even have to be based on a certain tale, it can just kinda have that fairy tale feel to it, I want to read that immediately. Going with the fairy tale theme, if there's a word in the title or the description of a book like princess, prince, royal, castle, dragon, medieval, kingdom, enchanted, spell, magic, witch, yeah, all of that. I can't tell you how many books I bought just because the word castle is in the title, even if it had nothing to do with fairy tales. Like, I just, those words, man, they get me. Next word is illustrations. If someone tells me the book has illustrations in it, I'm gonna want that book so quickly. I'm going to want, that made no sense. I'm going to want to buy that book very quickly. And this doesn't have to be a graphic novel. In fact, I'm actually not talking about graphic novels. I just mean if a book, so like for instance, A Monster Calls by Patrick Ness, someone told me that illustrations in it. You don't want to know how quick I was wanting to go buy that book. I love that. I love it so much. Like, so, I'm not talking about children's books either necessarily. I'm talking about just like, I don't even know what I'm talking about. You know what I mean. You know, if a book has illustrations in it, I want that book. Next up, if someone describes the writing as being whimsical or lyrical. Either one. Up next is one that Misty from Book Rat Misty actually said in her original video, and I'm going to steal it from her, and that is Orphan. I don't know what that says about Misty and I, but I love reading Orphan books, as does Misty. Like, they are great. Orphan characters are great. They seem to be adventurous, they seem to be individuals and know who they are, and I always like it when they find an adult, not even necessarily to adopt them, even though that would be great, but if they find an adult to be kind of like their mentor or their parent and have a relationship like that. I love it. Okay, the next category I really don't even know how to describe. I hate scary things. I hate scary movies, I hate scary books, I hate that. I don't like being scared, but I like spooky things. I love weird, quirky, like spooky things, kind of morbid things. Does that make sense? So I'm not even a big fan of this TV show, but a good example that came to my mind is like The Addams Family. Like, if a book is like that, I think The Graveyard Book could go in that category. I think even like Matilda could go in this category. Just something that's kind of like off, kind of spooky. And the last thing I like is forbidden romances. Except it's so easy to go wrong. There have been so many forbidden romances I've read that I hated, so like I'm not saying I like every single one. But if I hear that a story is a good forbidden romance, that the stakes are very, very high, I'm gonna probably want to read that. I like romance, not all the time, but when it's a good romance, I'm into it. That was it, you guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Please do your own. I would love to see it. Bye!